Good morning again. Welcome to our second quarter class. Welcome to our discussions for today about the ethical issues and problems in business and the corporate world. Introductions. Business is no doubt is a productive human activity that brings the beneficial contributions to both people and society's business produces employment, fair deals, creativity, advancement of technology, customer satisfactions, among others. Ironically, however, business is also an activity that provides an opportunity for some unscrupulous people to take advantages of the others. The abuse of the fiduciary relationship between the employers and the employees, between buyers and sellers. This chapter examines the broad array of the ethical issues and problems that affects the follows of business as a dynamic yet complex activity, human activity. And now here are our specific learning objectives for today. At the end of the discussions, the students are expected to, okay, first, examine the different issues and problems in business and the business enterprises from the moral perspective. Second, develop the framework for analysis and the resolutions of the ethical dilemmas and problems affecting the business. Third, acquire basic information about the questionable business practice and their impact to its stakeholders, and develop problem-solving skills using the philosophical quantitative approach to resolve the ethical problems in business and organization. And now we have the key terms to discuss for today. We have the sexual harassment, wage, and the bribery. Okay, first we will discuss about the sexual harassment. Okay, sexual harassment. Okay, class, what is sexual harassment? Sexual harassment is an issue in the corporate world that needs to be looked into because it can create a hostile and unhealthy workplace for the employees, applicants, not only the employees but also in the applicants for employment, students, or those undergoing training, instructions rather, or educations. And the state shall value the dignity of every individuals, enhance the development of its human resources rather, guarantee for full respect for human rights, and uphold the dignity of the workers, employees, applicants for employment, students, or those undergoing training instructions for educations. And towards this end, now, all forms of sexual harassment in the employment, educations, or training environment and hereby declared by the unlawful. And here we have the civil rights that protect for those persons who will be the victim of the sexual harassment. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, Title number 7 of the United States of the America, from which our laws was pattern defines our sexual harassments as unwelcome sexual advances, request for sexual favors, and the other verbal or the physical conduct of a sexual nature constitutes of sexual harassment when submissions or a rejection of this conduct and explicitly or implicitly affects the individual's employment. Unreasonably infers with an individual work performance or create an intimidating, hostile, for offensive work environment. And we have also the Republic Act number 7877 states that sexual harassment as employer, employee, manager, supervisor, or the agent of the employer, or the teachers also, instructor, professor, or a coach, trainer, or a person, or any other persons who have having authority, influence, or moral ascendancy over another in other work or the training or education's demands request for the otherwise requires any sexual favor from the other. Okay, regardless we of the uh, regardless of the whether the demand request or the requirement for submissions of these accepted by the object of the said act. And we have also the why sexual harassment is. Okay, how sexual harassment occurs. Okay, sexual harassment occurs due to the power struggle between men and women as a response to a real or imagined loss of power or as an expression of relations or a flexing of the new powers. This is also a sexual harassment class also happens because some organizations and managers allow to it happen. Historically, sexual harassment has always occurred, but there used to be no level for such behavior. Okay, the industrial revolutions that brought about changes in the traditional functions of men and women, which is greatly increased the gender specialization and form a new kind of workplace in a Western world. No? Men and women no longer work together rather on the farm or in the family business because of this responsibility of each become more specialized. Okay. In the past decades, class. Take note, class, in the past decades, things continue to change. More and more women joined the workplace. Increasingly, they moved into jobs that were traditionally held by men. As a result of these changes, the balance is shifting. Sexual harassment is one effect of this shift. When harassment class is committed by a male against a female, it may be response to a real or imagined loss of power. Okay. When it is committed by a woman towards a man, it may be an expression of the relations of flexing of the new powers. And we have also the two types of sexual harassment. The harasser. Okay, the profiles of the harasser will be the victim as well as the harasser may be a human or a woman or a man. That victims does not have to be the opposite sex. That is the first profiles of the harasser. Second, we have the harasser can be a victim, supervisor, an agent of the employer, or a supervisor in another area, or a co-worker or an employee. And next we have the third profile will be uh, the victim does not have to be a person harassed but could be anyone affected by the offensive conduct. And also the harasser conduct must be unwelcome. Okay, the profiles of a victim harassal will be helpful for a victim to directly inform that the harasser that the conduct is unwelcome and must stop, and the victim should use any employer compliant mechanism or grievance, grievance systems available. And although the victim of sexual harassment of the or in the persons accused of sexual harassment may be peers. More frequently, the victim is in positions or a lesser power than the accused. The most common example in this sexual harassment will be the boss subordinate situations. The harassment class is also occurs between the customers and the client and also for the providers. And har- how sexual harassment affect the workplace. Okay, in the study made by the Rebook of magazine in 1981, 140,000 men and women were interviewed in na, pertaining, pertaining to sexual harassment. Okay. The result is revealed that 80% of these persons as interviewed believe that have been sexually harassed. They, the study also showed that use of words, jokes, and gestures were type of harassments which affected the individual. Harassment, a harassment which affected the individuals harassed and the person accused, who may be innocent, such as can be generate costly lawsuits and favorable publicity or the invasions of privacy. No? It can also affect the bottom line of the employer, manager, and the co-workers and affect the entire life of an organization and its members. Okay. And how to prevent harassment in the workplace. Okay. We have a significant communicating the sexual harassment policy. Okay, the best policy ineffective if it is not communicated well. Even the company is already has a well-written policy, it is important to expose it regularly through permanent posting and bulletin boards and memos, articles in the organization's newsletters, meetings, and trainings, and also the training programs. Plus, training programs may become up with the various topics to support the anti-harassment programs and to assure each employee are safe from self and of a safe and harassment-free workplace environment. Okay, class, that's all for today's discussions. Thank you for listening and thank you.